and welcome to Extraordinary Women on ThatChannel.com. I'm your host, Shannon Skinner. Well, the theme for today's show is storytelling, and I have two guests that are both writers from very different backgrounds to talk about it. In the first half hour, you're going to meet Devyani Saltzman, who is an author and also the curator of literary programming for Luminato. And later in the segment, before we take a break, I'll have my regular Good to Know Minute when I ask my guests for their top tip on creating a successful life. You'll hear Devyani's. In the second half of the show, you are going to meet a young journalist and Huffington Post blogger who uses writing in a very different way. So stay tuned. Devyani.
Hey, Shannon.
Hello. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, you are the author of the memoir Shooting Water. And you're the curator of literary programming for Luminato, Toronto's Festival of Arts and Creativity.
It's a lot of fun, actually. You made it sound exciting. It is that exciting.
You know, it just looks like such a fun job. And, you know, in looking at the website and researching what events are going on this year, sounds like a really great program lineup, great event. I don't think anybody should be missing this one. It's the 5th anniversary, is that right?
It's our 5th anniversary, yes. I've been there since almost year one, and it's been beautiful to see the festival grow. And I think 2011, we're June 10th to 19th this year is going to be our best year.
Now, you and I, certainly one of the reasons I'm really excited to have you on the show, you and I have a lot in common. We're writers, we're interested in creativity. We also share something else, and that is we've both been to Oxford University.
Well, yeah, we do share that.
It's a very special time in my life, and so I know that you studied, it was anthropology there.
Yeah, actually anthropology, sociology, and genetics. It was a degree that was looking at human, very kind of intense degree about human behavior, but it was great.
What was your experience like at Oxford? I mean, to me it was so magical.
It is magical. I mean, it's a city that has an ancient history, and you go around these golden walls and libraries, and I think the key is, I was there for 3 years, is also knowing when to leave Oxford, because it is the kind of quintessential ivory tower, but I'm very thankful for my time there.
Yeah, I spent a summer studying creative writing a couple of years ago, and really thoroughly enjoyed it. It certainly was one of the highlights in my life for me. So it was really great to meet a fellow Oxford student. So. Fellow
Oxonian.
Yes, that's it, Oxonian. There aren't many in Canada, so there are not many alumni here, I understand, so it's special for me. Now, your present role with Luminato, what are you doing with them? What is a curator of literary programming?
A curator of literary programming. I feel like I'm a content builder, a programmer. Every year I have a budget to kind of showcase some of the best Canadian and international fiction coming into the city in June, and I have the joy of programming thematically. Every year the festival is obviously multi-genre. We have theater, we have dance, we have music, we have literature. This year our big theater piece is 1001 Nights. It's being directed by Tim Supple and adapted by Lebanese author Hanan al-Sheikh, an amazing women author from the Middle East. And I got to go away and say, well, I want to build a literary program around this. What am I going to do? And my main piece is basically celebrating new voices from the Arab world, which is very timely, obviously, right now. So bringing in authors from Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Morocco, and we're having an event hosted by Jian Ghomeshi on Sunday, June 12th.
Well, it sounds also romantic. I mean, there's really a great video on Luminato's website about it, and what a wonderful thing to bring these writers together.
I think it's really exciting because, I mean, 1001 Nights is very interesting, and it's Sherazade and storytelling. The event we're doing is kind of more about culture and politics, and it'll be really exciting to hear authors' perspectives on what's been happening with the Arab uprising. I am most excited also about a whole series on women authors, and you would love this. I've built a program called Modern Day Sherazades, and it's the idea of celebrating the consummate women storyteller because of 1001 Nights. So.
Oh, fantastic! And she was the woman she was known for her cliffhangers, wasn't she?
She was known for her cliffhangers. Yes.
And is there any particular authors that you'd like to highlight, or that you think that people absolutely must come out, they cannot miss it? Of course, that you want them to come out with the entire program, but is there anyone in particular that you wanted to highlight?
Well, the two things I most want to highlight is the event of the young Arab authors called Beirut 39, and that's Sunday, June 12th at the Glen Gould. But in terms of the modern-day Shahrazads, we are the Toronto launch of Joyce Carol Oates' memoir, A Widow's Story, and the Canadian launch of Anne Patchett's new novel. Anne Patchett won the Orange Prize for Bel Canto.
Right.
We're previewing Jeanette Winterson's new memoir, Why Be Normal When You Could Be Happy. And I just think it's a great way to see some of the best female voices in fiction.
Now, how can people find out more information and get tickets?
Absolutely. They can go to luminato.com, so our URL, and then from there there's the full literary press release, and in a few weeks our website will be live and tickets will be available.
Now, the role of storytelling, plays a very important role in your life. Mm-hmm. Clearly in your work with Luminato, but how important is storytelling to you?
I grew up with it. My parents are both filmmakers, and I grew up always watching their work. I was kind of brought into the editing room. My dad created a television show in the 80s called Danger Bay, and my mom was a filmmaker from doing stories about India and women, and I was an only child, so they didn't that was my daycare, was the editing room and watching stories being made, and I feel very lucky for it.
Of course, your father is Paul Saltzman, and your mother is Deepa Mehta. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A very respected filmmaker, somebody who I certainly admire. So what great parents to have, how creative is that? What a great environment.
That's Shannon, that's why I went to study science. I was trying to run away from the family business. It's caught up with me.
Now, how has that actually influenced who you are today?
Yeah, it led me. I think stories about social justice, which is what I always grew up with, led me to want to study. Well, I did study social science and biology, but then I always knew I was interested in nonfiction writing, and specifically stories that were political but had a very accessible package in terms of the written word. And after university, I got the opportunity to meet Anna Porter, who was obviously Key Porter, which is no more a great Canadian publishing house, and she said, "Why don't you write a nonfiction book about the experiences of film and politics, and specifically the film Water?" And I did 3 audition chapters, and she said, "Go for it." So the whole storytelling, the experience of growing up with storytelling, led me into nonfiction.
Now, we're going to talk more about your writing career after the break, but before we do, we have a break, and this means it's a good to know minute, and I know you've got a great tip for my audience.
Yeah, I think it's always overcome your fears for the sake of your passion, and I don't think I'd have the job I have if I didn't, times when you're afraid or you think this is an unconventional path and you ignore it. I think those are the moments when you have to say, no, this is what I love, and do it despite your fear. So I'd say always overcome your fear for the sake of your passions.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon.
Before we take a break, I have an event that I would like to announce. Amazing Women's Day is taking place on April 16th in Toronto at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, the brand new hotel. Extraordinary Women TV is the proud media partner of the event. I'm going to be there. I hope you come on out. More information at the website at amazingwomensday.com. That's where you can find tickets. Come on out for a day of celebration, inspiration, transformation, and collaboration. So look forward to seeing you there, and I'll see you right after the break. Welcome back to Extraordinary Women. I'm Shannon Skinner. Of course, that was a video put together by my friend Marsh Engel about Amazing Women's Day, a movement. We hope that you'll come out on April 16th in Toronto, the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. Now, I'm here speaking with Devyani Saltzman, author of Shooting Water and curator of literary programming for Luminato, which is coming up soon. But let's talk about your life as a writer and about your book. What inspired you to write?
Reading inspired me to write. Reading always. There is one book in particular. It sounds a little dark to talk about it, but I was working in New York when I was 17, and I read a book by Philip Gorovitch, who was a New Yorker staff writer about Rwanda, and it has a very dark title. It's "We Wish to Inform You." I don't know if you know that. Tomorrow,
No, I don't.
It's about the Hutus and the Tutsis, and it was published by FSG. And I was 17. I was working in New York, and I just decided to call up the New Yorker, and I cold called and said, "Can I speak to Philip Gorovitch?" And they put me through to his voicemail, and I said, "Hi, I want to be a writer." And he called me back, and we had coffee for 3 hours at a little cafe, and I thought he was a PhD in politics with a specialty in Central Africa. And he was like, "Yeah, I dropped out of anthropology, and I worked as a sculptor's assistant." And I said, "So how do you write?" And he said, "With a pen." And that was basically the breaking point for me of go away and do Shooting Water, and you don't need to have, what you need is your belief, and that's how I became a writer. Yeah.
Of course, we see your cover of your book. It's a lovely cover. Now, your book. What is your book about? Shooting Water.
It's a memoir. It's about film. It's about Indian politics. It's about growing up bicultural. My mom is Punjabi Hindu. My dad's Jewish, from Toronto.
It's an interesting mix.
Yeah, it gives me an interesting name. But it's really about the making, the through line of the book is the making of the film Water, which is about Hindu widows, which my mom wrote and directed. And the film was shut down for political reasons by the Hindu right and made in secrecy in Sri Lanka. And I used that as kind of a backbone to talk about my family and filmmaking. So that's what Shooting Water is about.
I remember that the controversy, and it was quite a struggle to make the film after that. The set was burned, was it? And there was all sorts of issues. She went on and was nominated for an Oscar for that film.
Best Foreign Film nomination, yeah. 2007.
So I guess in the end, it was perhaps maybe it was worth the challenges, maybe.
Yeah, it exists and it's out there, and that's the most, people can interact, and I think that's the beauty of any good art.
So when you wrote this book, the idea was that, I know that you traveled to be with your mother during the shooting, and were you writing the book during the time that you were making the film, or did you actually write it after the fact?
It was written after the fact. So I had experienced, the window of time of the making of the film Water was about 5 years, but while it was being made in India, shut down, and then remade in Sri Lanka. And I happened to be there in kind of multiple capacities over those 5 years. And when I came back to Canada, I got the offer to write the book, and so it was written after the fact.
Was it cathartic for you to write a memoir?
It's funny. I don't see it as kind of an emotional catharsis. I think I tempered it with the politics and the filmmaking. Of course, it had an aspect of catharsis about family, but I always wanted to hold a line that was, between gushing and restrained. And I think that's also a great challenge in anyone's memoir, is how do you be honest but not cloying.
And then, I think a question that a lot of writers have, and perhaps maybe a concern that stops many writers from writing memoirs, is you're not just writing about your life, you're writing about others' lives as well, and there's sensitivities around that. Did you find, were you concerned, it's risky?
Yeah, I was absolutely. I was aware. You in the art of memoir, you also leave out things. It's the line between fiction and nonfiction. I'm not saying it's created, but there's choice. So I made choices that I thought were respectful of people, and when I had questions about that, I asked them. And in general, there was no major upheaval about that. So,
now, did this writing the book bring you closer to your mother, or to do the opposite? It did.
No, it brought me closer to both my parents. The book is dedicated to both my parents, and I think it's the story of our family on one level, and they were proud. I think they were also excited to see me develop in my own art form that wasn't film. It was the written word, and I'm at the moment I think the only one in my family in that genre. So. And
do you share your stories with your
parents?
family?
Actually, my mom is my first reader, and I've actually been, but I was her first reader for her scripts since since I was 16 years old. So we have a very nice kind of critical ability to share work. My dad does not read books. I bought him a Kobo. I'm trying to get him into it, but he's.
And are they both living in Toronto now, or?
Yeah, they both live in Toronto, but.
Now, if there was one message that you wanted women to take away from your journey, from your book, what would it be?
I do think of Philip Gorovitch, and I think of that time when I started writing, and I do think all you need is to pick up a pen. And I've been getting a lot of emails actually this week from young women. The book came out with Penguin in India. Young women saying, I really want to write. And I just keep relaying that message that the only thing that stopped me from that process was myself. And as soon as I put pen to paper, I began. So I think of Philip and pick up that pen. So.
And where can people find a copy of your book?
I know it's at Nicholas Hoare Book Room on Front Street. I know it's at Indigo Chapters and Amazon.ca. So.
The usual suspects.
The usual suspects,
right.
Exactly.
Now, I know that you are writing a second book. Mm-hmm. It's quite different than your first.
Yeah, it's my first novel, so fiction. It's called Army of Peace. I'm working on my third draft right now, and it's partly about Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence and a team of civilian peacekeepers. So it's got also a political thread to it, but it's fiction.
Your work with Luminato and being surrounded by these really inspiring authors from all over the world, I mean, that actually must inspire you, the writer inside of you.
I love the combination. Who knew? But it's beautiful. It's great to program and to write. I feel like every day I'm surrounded by what I love, which is books, and I get to meet wonderful authors, and I get to write when I'm not in the office. So.
And but you write articles too.
I do. Mm-hmm. Freelance. I mean, I started off freelancing, and now I do occasional stuff for. I've done stuff for the Atlantic Monthly, the Literary Review of Canada, the Globe, and it's nice to write articles without the pressure of having to constantly create. So.
Something we were talking about before the show was the world of publishing and what may or may not happen to publishing and electronic books. And will you ever give up your paper books?
I was talking to your next guest on the couch and to other people. I have a Kindle in my bag and a Kobo as well, and I still need the tactile. I love them as art pieces, and I don't know if I can ever find that they'll be replaced.
Yeah, I mean there is something amazing about holding a book. And I'm not so certain that I haven't really gravitated to the Kobos and whatnot yet. Yeah. So, anything more about your next book that you'd like to give us a sneak peek?
No. Except that I'm excited, and I hope it'll be out in the next year or so. And again, I think it's an interesting. The title is, as I said, Army of Peace. It comes from the Hindi Shanti Sena. Before Gandhi was assassinated, one of his final ideas was this idea of literally the peace army, the Shanti Sena. And I think it's a part of history that isn't well known. So I'm excited to write it through fiction.
Do you think a movie might be made about your memoir?
Oh my God, I hope not.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
It brings too intense.
Now, for more information, if people want to find out more about you, where can they find you on the internet?
Yeah, I have a writing website, and it's just my name, DevyaniSaltzman.com, and then my programming life is Luminato.com.
So we certainly hope you come out to Luminato in Toronto. The dates are June 10th to the 19th. Mm-hmm. There's a great literary program happening, so come on out and be sure to pick up a copy of Devyani's book, Shooting Water. Thank you so much for being here today. It was such a pleasure, and I wish you all the best, and I can't wait to come out to the festival. So,
thank you, Shannon.
And hopefully we'll do this again.
We will.